Hello, hello. Hola, buenas tardes, días, noches, de donde quiera que nos sintonicen. Ya estamos aquí de regreso con un episodio más. Soy la doctora Xochitl Yadira y como siempre es un placer recibirlos y tener mis invitados de honor. Así de que esta versión la vamos a hacer bilingüe en Spanglish. Así que si quieren escuchar el idioma en el que estamos hablando, ya saben, váyanse a YouTube y usen los captions que tenemos para que puedan entender. Así es de que, with that, we're going to get started. We're going to do this whole episode in Spanglish. That's our language, and we're okay with that. And I am so happy to have you here, Mari. Por fin se nos hizo.
Yay,
Bienvenida, hermosa.
Gracias,
un placer tenerte.
Un placer estar aquí.
Le damos.
Ándale.
Sale. Platícanos un poquito. For those that don't know you, who's Mari?
Yeah.
Who's Mari? Where are you from? Where do you live? Why are you here in Milwaukee?
Oh my gosh. Who's Mari? That's a loaded question. A ver, soy la hija de Don Chuy, de Jesús y Hilda, de un pueblito pequeño que se llama Santa María del Oro en Jalisco. I was born and raised in Pilsen, which is a predominantly Mexican immigrant neighborhood in the southwest side of Chicago. I'm the oldest sister to four wonderful younger siblings. And I am someone who just really loves on her people. Like, ando que entre aquí y entre allá. Aunque nací en Chicago, nací en Pilsen, tengo mis raíces bien integradas en donde somos, de Jalisco. Y siempre, bueno, entre batallando que soy de aquí y de allá. Antes era ni de aquí ni de allá, ahora es de los dos lados, porque de verdad que sí, me siento igual mexicana que estadounidense. And right now, the beauty of it is that Milwaukee became my second home. So I came to Marquette for undergrad, and Milwaukee became my home for about 10 years.
Wow.
So it was a really beautiful place that I called home for about a decade, and actually just recently moved back to Chicago. So I'm in like the South Loop area, unos 10, 12 minutos donde están mis papás todavía en Pilsen.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about Marquette porque yo también soy, my undergrad is from Marquette.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So I know, I love that. I want to stay with that for a minute because we talked a lot about this, right? Like this whole concept, ni de aquí ni de allá, and then you make it a belonging statement, like,
Sí.
no, soy de aquí y de allá, right? How has that experience for you living that as you've been growing up? Tell us about that little bit, that growing up, and how has that translated into who you are today?
Yeah, no, it's everything. It's the very fabric, like it's in the DNA. Y pues nada, empezando aquí con mis papás, siempre bromeo que realmente we were raised in this country together. My parents came here. My wonderful uncle, so mi tío Domingo, fue el primero que vino entre toda la familia del lado de mi papá, del lado de Contreras. Y cuando llegó encontró muchísimo empleo entre el mundo de la construcción. So he was like telling my dad and telling all the other younger cousins, I was like, you guys had to come here, found some really good opportunities. And so that's how my dad came. And then, brought my mom. They got married in 1990. And then they came over and started a life in Pilsen, a very humble one. And I was born. And really, we did life together, right? So it was like figuring out everything, girl, like figuring out like how to open up a bank account, right? Like how to apply to a mortgage, like how to register all the kids for school. Like what is the application for like free and reduced lunches? Because we definitely were that, we went to the local school, shout out to Whittier in Pilsen. And then eventually Orozco, but like my world was growing up in this country with my parents. And so like we learned everything together.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, it took me a long time to figure out that like not everybody spoke Spanish. That's really when it hit me when I was at Marquette, right? So like here I am, I'm pursuing nursing. I got this wonderful scholarship opportunity, and all of my high school counselors told me, I'm like, tienes que ir. Tienes que ir. Has recibido una beca. Es una bendición muy grande. Y me explicaban, and it made sense to me, right? But I had no one that was in my family or in my neighborhood that had ever gone to college. I remember telling my parents, I'm like, me ha dicho la consejera, like I have to go. This is a wonderful opportunity for me. But at that time, because I'm the oldest and I'm a girl, right? So it was like, no, ni se te ocurra, no te puedes ir de la casa sin estar casada.
Right.
Porque eso era como una gran forma de respeto o falta de respeto quererme ir, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, que la consejera and the principal and everybody got involved with my parents to try to explain to them, like, no, she really needs to go. You need to allow her to like spread her wings. And that was hard, right? Because it was like, really explaining and trying to bring them along with me, but at the same time being like, I think I have to take this risk and I have to go. I have to go to the dorms, you know, even as an unmarried woman. And it was scandalous, you know, there was definitely some tension. Rebellious. No, todo el pueblo empezó a hablar de mí, estaba bien. I was a black sheep.
Esta chiquilla que se va de su casa.
Verdad, no, y era...
Dice que estudiar.
Exactamente, no, que quiere vivir allá, que se quiere ir allá hasta Wisconsin. Bueno, al principio era Washington D.C. y al final Wisconsin. Pero era muy controversial. Ya al fin me fui, llegué, and it caused tension. You know, like transparently speaking with my dad, because it was, he didn't understand why. And me being as rebellious as I was like a huge form of disrespect. And I didn't mean it as disrespect. Right. It was never my intention, you know, but I just knew, like, I knew I needed to go. And so when I got to Marquette, I was like, you know, the direct entry nursing program, the way that it works is that, like, you go right into your major. So freshman year, you're immediately taking nursing courses. Whereas, like, oftentimes other schools, like UW-Madison, for example.
Electives.
Yeah, you take your first 2 years of gen ed, and then hopefully you apply as a sophomore, rising junior for the College of Nursing. And so in this case, I'm doing nursing right away. The direct entry nursing program accepts maybe 90 students every year. And out of this cohort of 90 students, I was the only Latina. There was 2 Black women in my cohort and everybody else was white. And so talk about culture shock. Like, I lived with 2 white roommates that were from the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And I just remember feeling like, I can't do this.
Right.
Like, I
damn,
can't.
my parents are right.
Pero no podía decirles eso, mujer.
Right.
I was like, I don't know what to do.
Defiance.
Right. And so, man, I missed everything. I missed everything. I missed the food. I missed, you know, yo ya estaba acostumbrada with every meal, tortillas. Saber que siempre había chile, había salsa, el molcajete. Siempre teníamos de todo. Y cuando llegué a Marquette's campus, and it was just a whole different world. And I remember feeling like, I don't belong here. You know, this is not for me. Like, I need to figure out how to, like, navigate this. And I was really, really grateful and really blessed to have met some incredible counselors on Marquette's campus that, like, honestly shook me in a way that I needed to be shook. And were like, you got this. Like, you can do this. Like, don't give up. And I've never been a quitter. I'm real stubborn in that way, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I get that from Don Chuy for sure. But it was a matter of, like, just, de verdad, llevé tanto tiempo, tantos años, de verdad que no me sentía ni que era ni de allá, porque también iba a Santa María, hice mi quinceañera allá. O sea, mataron un chivo en mi honor y toda la cosa. Hicimos una birria, invitamos todo el pueblo y nos divertimos un montón. Pero de verdad era como que I wasn't Mexican enough to be Mexican, but I also wasn't American enough to be American. So then it just was like, I don't know where I belong. How do I claim both of these identities? And eventually got to the point where, you know, just the more women like yourself, like the more chingonas that I started surrounding myself with, the more people that I started meeting along the way that were like, you know, you are who you are, be authentic. That was always the sort of goal, right? That was always the consejo that I got. And I didn't know what that meant for a very long time up until I started really realizing and sitting with the fact that, like, yeah, you can't have that without the other, which is why we're doing Spanglish today, right? Like, best of both worlds.
I love it. And I'm gonna go back to something you said that was pivotal. Understanding that there's so much power in honoring the roots of your parents and honoring that they just don't know what they don't know, but that you're being the beacon of teaching for them and your family and your siblings. That's a heavy load that we don't often talk about, because it's a responsibility that is vested upon us, right? Like in this case, I relate so much because I for me, it was a little different, right? And I've shared this before. I've always been a rebel at heart. And my husband, till this day, we joke because he's like, I just know to this point that I think the priest told us once, do you want to be happy? You want to be right.
Hey, de verdad.
So, he learned the lesson.
You have to choose.
But even with my parents, right? Like for me, everything was backwards. So I got married very young, and then I went back to school. And I got the whole bunch of a lot of, my parents have always been supportive, but a lot of people started asking, but ¿cómo vas a ir a la escuela si ya estás casada? Ya tienes hijos. ¿Ya para qué? Almost like, why are you doing this, right? And I stuck to it. I was like, no, because now I have to set an example for my children, for other generations, right? And I remember going to school, going to work, because I started my corporate career at the time, while going back to school. So it was a lot of, mírala, está descuidando a su familia, está descuidando al marido, está descuidando a los hijos, por irse a la escuela, ¿y para qué? And it was a lot of fighting my own beliefs. Like, I feel to the core that I need to do this because it's a responsibility. But am I also listening to all the noise from people that don't know what they don't know, right? They're only speaking from their experience. And so then turning that into how do you claim that identity because you're not enough in any of these places. Yeah. And it's a strong revelation that when you get to that point that you don't have to prove nothing to no one.
Exactly.
You owe nothing to no one. And sadly, not even your parents.
You know, that takes a while to figure out, though. I mean, talk about, you know, I'm in my 30s now. Hallelujah. Shout out to therapy. But, like, it takes a lot of, like, figuring out and
Bye, therapist later.
Right. But it takes a lot to, like, really learn that and sit with it and, like, the discomfort, right? Like, I recently heard, you know, I used to always say, like, I'm just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And someone, you know, I saw somewhere online that said, it's not necessarily uncomfortable versus comfortable. It's like what you're familiar with, what you know, and what you're unfamiliar with, what we don't know yet.
Right.
But it's a matter of just like, you're just going to go and jump into something else. But I think it's so beautiful, right? Because it's people meeting like you that you may not have done things, quote, the right way or the way that someone expected. But like, look at the way that your kids have seen you. You know, ahora una doctora, todo en su hecho, like you're a corporate baddie in your own right? Like doing all of these incredible things. And that's how I've known you in community. And the same thing goes for my siblings, you know, like 4 of them came after me. And now the baby is, honestly has an incredible full scholarship at Cornell. He was the first one in our entire family on both sides to go Ivy League. And so, you know, we talk about this all the time that like, I crawl so you can run, you know, pon atención en la escuela, cabrón, que nos tomó. Pon atención. Es como, ay, sí, jefa, you know, like, here we go again, Mari. But it's serious. It's like, we learn so much. And like, I'm always joking around, like we throw so much pasta against the wall just to figure out what sticks. And eventually we figure out like, it isn't just about that. Like, también hay que buscar momentos y oportunidad para buscar joy and to really protect that joy and also just slow down and be present. Yeah. You know, because I think that was the biggest lesson for me. It was like, I'm constantly chasing the next thing. Yeah. And it just was driving myself to the ground. Yeah. You know,
it's like this responsibility that I don't know if it happened to you, but I had this realization at some point that I felt like the pressure of society and expectations. Like it went from like, why are you doing this to like, when are you done? I was like, Jesus, first you were questioning me for doing it. Now you're saying, when am I done? Yeah. But it was also the expectations that I thought society believes and all this were putting on me. And it wasn't that. It was what I was putting on myself. 100%. I took it as a responsibility for me to do all those things to protect something, protect someone, without realizing that at the end of the day, why am I doing this at the core? Like, why am I doing this? Like, for what? What's driving me, right? And I found myself exactly what you're saying. Like, I was burning myself out. I was building things and palaces that weren't going to serve me in any way. And then I had to scale back and be like, okay, cálmate. Sí. And I always say, bájale 2 rayitas, because that's my saying, because I caught myself doing too much that was draining me, that was burning me out, that was shutting me down. I think we are way past talking about the pandemic, but I think it was a necessary shock to really make me realize, what am I doing? Yeah. Where am I adding value, and where is life adding value to me in my surroundings? Because the responsibility, right, of leading and paving the way goes deep. And sometimes it's just showing up even for your brother and being like, hey, I got you. Yeah. I know exactly what you're going for, but you have no excuse of not getting through, because we're not quitters.
Exactly. No, and it's real. And I applied that pressure times tenfold, right? Like when it came to then my brother, he and I are a year and a half apart. Tienes que ir a la universidad. This is how you apply to FAFSA. You have to get a scholarship. Like you have to go. Like, if we fail, like all of our parents' sacrifice and coming to this country would go in vain. And like in my mind, that was never an option. So like you have to lock in. And I pushed him so much that eventually he was like, he started resenting me, right? Because he was like, I don't love school like you. Like I'm not made for this. Like you can't force me to be someone I'm not. And at first I used to be like, dude, you're falling behind. You're not like seeing the vision. You got to just lock in. You know, if you put your head to it, you can do it, right? And he eventually was like, dude, no, like, esto no es para mí. And he went to NIU and he did really well in school. And eventually he was just like, his spirit was always entrepreneurial in nature. And so his mind, he started cutting hair on the side. Like we were always hustlers. Shout out to my brother Tito, but he became a barber when he was 14. He started cutting all the kids at school. I started a dog walking business. He and I were hustling, constantly getting clients that were like in a wealthier neighborhood. And we would always tag team in between our basketball schedules. Honestly, we got some good clients. Yeah. They were like, mira, tengo un perrito.
Mira la abusada desde chiquita.
Oye, que tengo un perrito, le tienes que dar de comer y $80 la semana, you know? And just started really saving our money because in our world, like we weren't just saving for going out and hanging out with our friends. Like we were pitching in for the mortgage. Like we were like a team with our parents. And so like we had to lock in. We had no other choice. Yeah. And so by the time he got to, college, he realized he was cutting like, all of the players that were playing like football and basketball on campus. He was cutting everybody in his dorm. And he was like, Mari, like I want to be a barber. Like this is what I want to do. And I want to open up my business. And so he went down that route. But it took me a long time to really embrace him and support him in a way that like he needed me to show up for him. Right. And it was just, it took me a long time. Like, damn, I'm over here sweating you the same way, the same pressure that you talk about that we feel from society and our parents and our ancestors. And like, we can't afford to fail. I was bleeding onto him. Yeah. Unnecessarily so. And so he went down his path. My sister, the middle one, she's an incredible mama of 2. But when she was little, I would always ask her, ¿qué quieres hacer cuando estás grande? Siempre me decía, yo quiero ser una mamá. Yo voy a ser la mejor mamá del mundo. I'd be like, no, but like, what else do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do with your life? And she was like,
I can't imagine. You're like, espérame. We're trying to bring them all here.
I'm like, wait, pero tienes que ir a la universidad, tienes que ponerte las pilas en la escuela. And she was like, you can't tell me what to do, right? It was this whole notion of like, dude, you're a bully. And I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Soy la más grande, me escucha
la mayor. And eventually, here comes the next one. And Lupita, she was really into school, really into theater. And she loved it. So I'm like, okay, like this time I learned my lesson with the other 2. I'm like, I'm not saying nothing. Like, vamos a ver cómo les va a ustedes. This is the way you do it. If you need help, I'm here for you. And she did her thing. She loved school. She started leaning in a lot. And eventually her and my sister actually tag team. And they were like, hey, we're going to tell you something. I'm like, either you buckle down and choose. Either you want to be our mom, our second mom, or you want to be our sister.
Wow.
If you want to be our second mom, we're going to start hiding shit from you. We're going to start lying to you. And if you want to be our sister, then, which we hope you choose, we want you in our lives. Like we want a big sister. We want to be able to tell you when we have a crush on boys and we want to go to this dance and we need help with their makeup. And man, when I tell you that hit me like a ton of bricks, I was like, dude, I don't want to be a mom. I'm not even a mom. Like, tengo 18 años que me están diciendo esto. And I was so like, I had to make a choice. And I chose being their sister. Wow. And things shifted after that. So when the little one came, my little baby, he and I are 16 years apart. That was quite the surprise when I was in high school.
You were really the mom almost there.
I was really, I cut that little nugget's umbilical cord for sure. I was at the hospital with my mom. And so for me, I'm like, that's my baby, But I tried really hard at that point. I'm like, I've learned a thing or two. I bumped into a couple of walls. I'm like, I'm going to let you be great. And so when it came to him applying to FAFSA and applying to colleges, I'm so incredibly proud of all of them for a very different journey. But it's, it was all of this, right? To just give my parents grace. And lo que has dicho, like everyone does what they can with what they know. Yeah. And like forgiving before people are able to ever ask for forgiveness in some instances, right? But just like, everyone's really just trying their best. Like nobody sets out to be a bad father or a bad mother. It's just like las circunstancias y todo lo que sabemos. Y especialmente vienen de un pueblo pequeño, no tienen las opciones que tenemos aquí. And so when they get here, they're trying to keep us out of gangs. They're trying to get their daughter not to be pregnant. Like they're trying to keep us like as together as possible, being from the neighborhood that we were from and knowing like, I'm going through a school with metal detectors, right? Like I had friends that were getting pregnant when they were in 5th grade. Yeah. I had my first open casket when I was in 7th grade. Like my life was protected in a bubble with my very strict parents, but at the same time I was exposed to reality, right? And so like it just was, I was taking everything I was absorbing from them and trying to put it on my siblings and eventually just getting to the point of like, damn, we don't have to do life on hard all the time. You know, we can chill and just enjoy and just show up for each other because now it's a choice. We don't have to be in each other's lives. Now we get to choose to be in each other's lives.
And I'm going to stay with that for a minute because one of the reasons, and I've been doing a lot of work and reflecting in this space. And I've talked a lot about this, and we had amazing guests in the past. Jose, shout out to Jose Sanchez and Rosario Sanchez, because they both ran Life Camp, and I've had the privilege of experiencing their seminars most recently. And one of the biggest aha moments I had from that experience was exactly what you're talking about right now. It's almost like, again, going back to the responsibilities that we carried, it's like your parents didn't come and say, hey, Maddie, you're the oldest. Here's the, here's the flag we want you to carry. Now go be the mom that we are maybe not able to be for your siblings. And then it was the hard reality of your siblings coming to you and be like, hey, whoa, stop, right? Nobody teaches you the shit in the street. Nobody teaches you or says that in a book about how to be a parent or a sister or someone in the community. And it is so important to pause and also have the empowerment from the youngers to say, chill out. You're crossing boundaries here that we don't want. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, kudos to your siblings. Yeah. Because it was a teaching on them to you. Absolutely. And then a reflection of you carrying yourself forward, because I am sure, and we're going to get into that in a minute, that then transcended in ways that you can't imagine into how you show up in your career then and how you show up into the real world, and allowed you more capacity to show us as Mari, the human professional young that I'm still growing. Because there's a difference between being safe and safe to grow, then safe to thrive, and safe to stay comfortable. And I think a lot of us come from a place, especially our parents, of being safe to be comfortable because they don't know what thriving means. Yeah. Thriving to them is living their lives through us and our achievements. Exactly. That's heavy. And we don't talk about that because even with my parents, I went through the same journey. Like, my husband and I, we started dating since we were in 8th grade. Yeah. And I remember my parents wouldn't let me go nowhere. And I grew up here in Milwaukee. Yeah. We had friends, everything you're talking about. We had friends that were in gangs. My husband was in an experience where our best friend got killed in front of him in a church. And I had friends getting pregnant. I had friends, right? And when you look through all of that noise, it's like, damn, we endure some very drastic stuff that in the moment felt heavy, but it felt normal.
Like that part.
Like it was normal. Yeah. And our parents just wanted us to not be that kid in the casket. Exactly. That's all they wanted. To not be that kid having kids, right? To not be that kid going through those. And oftentimes we forget in the middle of this power and entitlement and trying to achieve, like, look at me, I'm not one more statistic. I made it.
I made it, mama.
And at the same time, it's like, damn, that's a load, right? So thanks for sharing that, and kudos to your siblings for standing in the power, and to you to realizing that so young. Yeah, that's powerful. So let's pivot a little bit because obviously now I see where all the transcending light came from, Maddie. As you were going through that journey and then going into college and you started, living in your own terms. I call it like, what is that from, because again, I have kids, so I watch all the Disney movies. The movie of the little monkey and the drum, Bevo, beating at the rhythm of your own drum, or what is that saying? Yeah. You started living life in your terms. Absolutely. Right? You got out of the commodity of being with your parents. How was that? Going through college and then realizing, because you went to nursing, but you're in corporate. Yeah. So what happened there?
I know, the $1 million question, right? Well,
or are you performing surgery in corporate body?
Which actually is so funny, porque cuando fui a estudiar enfermería, me encantó porque cuando tenía 14 años, I had an internship that allowed me to be at this hospital by the name of Mercy Hospital. It's no longer around, but it's ironically where me and all 4 of my siblings were born. Okay. And I used to type up birth certificates. It was my first time being exposed to a labor and delivery unit. So I worked in the labor delivery and the mother baby. So like when moms go to recover. And it was a part of the Cristo Rey model. So I went to Cristo Rey in Pilsen. Okay. Shout out to the network. But it allowed me to have exposure at a very young age of like a corporate internship. So that means like we had longer sort of classroom days, 4 days a week. And then the 5th day would be at this corporate internship. And then the second half of the high school was at Northwestern Hospital, was as we were getting ready to open up the new women's apprentice hospital. But I was working in the IT department, which is a very different side of healthcare I had never even imagined existed, because no one tells us that, right?
Right.
Like, we don't have we weren't having career fairs or anything that was like, you should consider IT at a hospital. And so by the time I had an opportunity to shadow different sort of healthcare providers, shout out to Miss Debbie, who was my supervisor at the time. It was really cool, right? Because I got to shadow techs and surgeons and nurses, but I really fell in love with the nurses and the work that they did, because they were spending the vast majority of the time with the families, with the mom that was expecting, explaining to them what to expect, helping them overcome their fear. Oftentimes the moms would be in delivery by themselves, right? Because either the husbands were too nauseous to be there, or just they didn't have family around.
Chickens.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that's why, listen, I know my dad was like, I had to take a call. And he would like excuse himself. I'm like, no, in hindsight, we know really what it was.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful sort of calling that I felt that was just like so undeniable. This undeniable force that I was meant to be a nurse, because I wanted to take care of others. And now in hindsight, I'm like, I've just always really wanted to take care of everybody, apparently. But no, it was great.
We're going to call you Mama Santa Mari.
no, ya me cansé tanto opposite way over here now in my 30s. But at the time,
don't hang up on that, people. Okay,
exactly.
We haven't gotten to that part
yet.
No,
not yet. We can't skip to that. No, but it was amazing. So I majored in nursing, minored in IT at Marquette, was able to study abroad. I had... at the time, the Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship allowed you to choose and have a full ride to any undergraduate university of your choice across the country. And I was meant to go to one, but ended up at Marquette in the most beautiful of ways. I always feel like everything happens for a reason. And I'm so grateful, because it's led me to the most beautiful humans that I've met here in this city. But I was in nursing. I did bedside patient care for all of 30 seconds right out of college. And I just, every nurse has to pay their dues. They work night shifts. And I'm a people person. I love my family. So I was still going back and forth, Milwaukee to Chicago, to visit them. And I just always promised myself, like, the way that I wanted to care for my patients was the way that I would want, God forbid, someone to take care of my parents if we were to ever be in that situation. And I just started losing my spark, because I was working nights and I was never seeing anybody that I loved. And I was just backwards. When everybody was awake, I was sleeping. And when everybody was sleeping, I was awake. I was working. And so I actually had an opportunity to intern when I was an undergrad at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Wisconsin. And that exposed me to so many different worlds. It exposed me to workforce development. It's where I met, Erica and some other incredible folks that were doing empowering Latinos, and really got to know Milwaukee Southside through such a unique lens. Because at Marquette, they tell you, like, don't cross 27th Street, don't cross the 16th Street. Like, it's like, this is a bubble and you're safe here on Marquette's campus. And if you cross the bubble, you risk your life. And I'm like, okay, but where am I going to get the tortillas? Like, I got to figure this out.
Los comales is on the other side of the bridge.
Right. And like, y las carnitas para el domingo. Like, I need to cross that bridge, And just like familiarizing myself with like my home away from home, right? Because I had that in Pilsen and I wanted to discover that in Milwaukee. So I started familiarizing myself with the South Side. It was incredible. And it just felt beautiful to have been exposed to so many, it was the Department of Workforce Development, so many CDBG grants that we were navigating at the time, and exposure to the city, the county, and so many beautiful like quinceañeras that I was invited to, right? And it opened my worlds in a way that I was driven to like meeting more and more people that were doing incredible work. And then I learned that there was an opportunity to do that at the healthcare system level. So I worked for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, leading their community engagement work for a couple of years, and then eventually freighted in the medical college doing community engagement throughout Milwaukee County. And then I was tapped by a wonderful mentor of mine. She was like, Mari, I have this amazing team I'm building for AmFam, and I think you'd be phenomenal. It'd be working with schools, right, for like building a talent pipeline specifically in tech. And I was like, thank you so much for thinking about me. But like, it's something that I'm not in a line. I prayed on it. I was in a line in that season. And 8 months later, she comes back. She's like, okay, I really think this one is for you. Yeah. You'd be working with colleges and universities. You'd be building a diverse tech talent pipeline, first generation students, building it in Southeast Wisconsin. Like you can like reimagine this however you want. Right. And she's like, I know it's mostly like lived experience though. Prayed on it and I did it and I haven't looked back since. It's been 6 years.
Wow.
And I'm, a little corporate baddie now. So It's a very different world.
Welcome.
I love it here, girl. The benefits are amazing.
Oh yeah.
But no, it was just this exposure of like, the power of not only mentors, but sponsors, right? That like keep you in mind and speak your name in rooms that you're not in, because I didn't have that growing up, right? Like, so it was just like slowly I started meeting some incredible human beings that are doing amazing work. and that want to see you win too. They're not threatened by you and your beauty, your excellence, your brilliant spark. They want to bring you along with them as much as possible. And I think that was the biggest game changer in how I ended up from nursing to corporate.
Wow, that's amazing. And let's stay with that for a minute because the power of seeing that transition and that transcendency of the scared Maddie defying her parents, getting out of the comfort zone to becoming this, it's a huge leap, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in the midst of all that, there were so many lessons learned, I bet, on discovering who you are at the essence of who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like letting go of fears, letting go of assumptions and beliefs and things that you should and shouldn't. Talk to us a little bit about what that was, pivoting and giving yourself the chance to explore. What were some of those nuggets that now you look back and you think like, damn, like I am blessed that happened.
Yeah.
Whether it was good or bad. And what were some of those moments for you that you can say, this one was a pivotal moment that really, really transcended me to take the leap and do what I do today?
Yeah, you know, it was when I started doing this work, it was I got hired in January of 2020, end of January, beginning of February, right? And I'm super excited to like meet everyone. We have an office space down in on Water Street, downtown Milwaukee, and everything is incredible. Like I am at the pinnacle of this new opportunity. Now I'm in corporate America, working for an insurance company, yes, but also doing some really great work in the college university space. And then the pandemic happens. Right. And the world shuts down, and, had to reimagine what that looked like. But it gave me time to slow down and really talk to a lot of students, right? Like talking to them about their experience and about not only how we were creating opportunities for like our internship program and our rotational analyst program that we had going on internally and sort of exposing them and bridging those gaps. But I had scholars in, MSOE, Marquette, Concordia, Alverno, UWM, and it was incredible because they had never even considered the insurance industry, right? It's like you can't be what you can't see. It's like the power of representation. So we spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of time listening, right? To like where they were at. And the more that I got engaged with the students, the more I was coming across students like me and you, right? Students that, for example, at UWM that were now in their 30s or 40s that were going back to school for their first time. And they had taken them a long time, but they were so close to the finish line. They were going to graduate and they were so excited because they felt like they were carrying all of their legacy where they came from with their families. And then I had, an 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old that is afraid to tell their parents they want to go to a school that's out of state because their parents don't want them to leave. Because again, it wasn't always necessarily because they weren't married, but it's like, I know, que Dios no quiera que te pase algo. Like, mejor aquí. Mejor quédate aquí en la casa, right? And that like, that fear of like, I promise you, I felt like, I get it now, God. Yeah. I get why you pivoted me this way. Yeah. And my whole energy shifted towards like sharing as much as possible, but then exposing them to other amazing Latinos and other amazing professionals in the community that were doing dope things that were relatable, that helped it make less scary. Yeah. And then started talking to a lot of parents too, try to bring them on the journey. So as much as I was investing in programs for the students to get, let's talk about tech, let's talk about this, scholars design program and building, positioning Milwaukee as a tech hub, as Dr. Nadia would say. More than that, it's let's bring the parents along, right? In addition to learning about FAFSA, what does it mean for your college student to be situated on a campus? And it changed everything for me because you started seeing so many of these students, like their spark started coming back. And they started really believing like they deserve to be here too. A young lady, she was like really intimidated, phenomenal scholar, but she was really intimidated to pursue engineering because everybody, for the most part, in the program was a male. They were like, in her world, were coming from suburbs of Milwaukee, were much smarter than her. And like, she's like, I don't think I could do it. She was coming from the South side. She's Latina. I was like, girl, como que no? Like, let's bring you in. And it's just, again, and connecting her to people that were doing the great work and that were like Latinas that were thriving in different areas within engineering. Because it's not just like in practice or out in the field. You can be in academia. Like, there are so many different opportunities. And that was the biggest game changer of them all. It's just exposure. So honestly, I feel like I blacked out for a good 3 years just driving this pipeline of students, but in a very holistic way. And it was a known thing that like, Mari, like you're doing the most. Yeah. And I'm like, it's the difference between someone taking the leap of faith. Like I don't, my high school counselor, my college counselor, that they did in me back in the day, you know?
Yeah. And it's almost like you go through this journey holding mirrors.
Yeah.
And then you get into an experience or someone or student, and I was like, damn, that's my younger me.
100%.
Whether it's the defiance one or the overarching overachiever one or the one that is like a little mouse scared in the corner and I don't want to do it. And all these things come up that I can only imagine, but how powerful that was a gift, right?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because a lot of the stories I hear that happened during COVID, it was more of a perceive as a delay, or as a pause, or as a missed opportunity, or we wasted so much time. And when I hear stories like this, it's like, no, look at the gift it gave you.
Absolutely.
The gift of reassurance and repurpose and reevaluate what you were brought to do and accelerate the process. So when your students and you were ready, it was already done.
Exactly.
Like it was no wasted time. It was possibilities that needed to be shown at the right time in the right way. So you're really like a living proof of like paying it forward.
Yeah. No, I tried to be. Yeah. I mean, with my siblings, it's, I agree. De todo corazón, I feel like it was a redirection. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that we would have had that if like we wouldn't have been forced to have completely stopped and slow down. Because I wasn't able to go on campuses and do the things where I was able to engage where Office of Development and like the very traditional hierarchical sort of systems that we have set up in place where maybe I wouldn't have spent as much face time, right, virtually with the students if it wasn't for this redirection. Yeah. And it ultimately was the biggest blessing I could have had because it's led me to where I am today. Yeah. But, I think about, last year I was fortunate enough to have been recognized as, 40 under 40.
Yay. And
I was shout out to my family.
Be there to celebrate you amongst other amazing friends.
And I think like for me, that moment was so important for my parents.
Yes.
Because I would not be here if it wasn't for them.
So let me pause right there because I want people that are going to be listening. Yeah. And obviously we have a lot of audience that watch the YouTube channel, but I want to drive you through this journey. Yeah. We're sitting in an auditorium, okay? And they're playing. What was the music, the song that you chose?
It was Son de la Negra.
Son de la Negra starts playing. Mariachi. A mariachi song. And this girl, I was crying as the song, they say her name. Yeah. And now we welcome, and they say your name. She in this beautiful all white business suit comes out with her big ass Mexican colorful black like flag walking into the damn stage owning that shit. Like I remember and I get chills even just sitting there with so much pride and seeing your parents, your family, your mom, your dad, they were all in tears. Yeah. In that moment, I just want people to hold that space to visualize. Like when you're talking about it was a big deal, it wasn't just a big deal for you. It was a big deal for all of us sitting on the stage, on the audience, for all those people that you represent, the culture, your siblings, everyone. And I know you're very humble. And I know you see this as this is not for me. And you said it on your speech. But I want you to take that in and see that's a reflection that you earned that.
I appreciate you.
That was not something that, Mari was nominated and everybody voted on her. No, she earned that shit and she owned it and she walked on that stage with all the pride. So when you say that was a big moment for me and my family, it was felt in the audience. So now take us back to that moment.
I appreciate you. It was so fun because, I had invited back to the patriarch of the family that we had talked about. So mi tío Domingo came with my mom and my dad, my cousins, Joel and Jaime. They all came from Chicago. I had friends that drove here, and it was a weekday, right? I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. They drove here. There was about 30, 40 people in the audience from all walks of life. I was so grateful, but I was also like so excited. I was on cloud nine. I'm running around saying hi to all my favorite people. I can't believe that I have mentors and I have like my parents. I'm trying to bring them along, but my siblings are there and just trying to bridge as many gaps. But I'm also like, this feels like such an out-of-body experience. Yeah. And, my sister's passing like las caritas que estaban en los palitos de las paletas, right? And That was a really sort of like fun surprise that I wasn't expecting. But they also had these flags, and there were a handful of Mexican flags, but there was also flags that had both. So they had both the American flag and the Mexican flag, because going back to todos van a aprender hoy que soy de aquí, pero también soy de allá.
You claim your place.
And I did. I claimed it. But it's a beautiful sort of like coming to like this sense of like, this is what it's all about. This is what I've worked so hard to do, is like, I have held back in so many rooms where I've been the only Latina to polish up, right? And to like code switch and be so incredibly professional and show up so that I'm taken seriously, not for how I look or what I'm coming off as, but what I'm saying and what I am articulating, right? And then I've been in other spaces where, you know,
the ghetto comes out.
Right. Like,
let me put my hoops on.
We've been at a wedding together, right? Donde nos hemos echado un zapateado and we're sweating. You know, we've been on the dance floor the whole night and we have the best time too.
Yeah.
And I love both worlds, right? But that was really the first time that, like, for the business community, we're in this huge auditorium and they're really seeing me in a way that like a lot of people hadn't seen me before.
Yeah. Your world's colliding.
My world's colliding. Like, I've met with so many leaders that were in the audience and they texted me afterwards. They're like, yo, that was crazy. Especially because when they read my bio, and everybody's bio is read in English.
I know. I was there when you said, I'm going to take this moment, I'm going to do it in Spanish. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yes, it was amazing. And it was a lot of work behind the scenes, so to convince
I bet.
the leaders that this was so important. My parents were in the audience, and like, I really needed this to be read in Spanish because this was for them.
Talk about breaking barriers. Talking about standing in your power and saying, this is why it's important to me.
Absolutely. And you know, it took a lot, but through a lot of conversation, a lot of championing, a lot of making moves, a lot of making calls, a lot of showing up, like, this is important to me, and I just quite frankly won't take no for an answer. Yeah. So what are we going to do? What do we have to do?
Right.
Like, can I, get you a coffee? Right. But this is happening. And so when it happened,
¿Cómo nos arreglamos?
And they're like, no puedes demorarte mucho. Tiene que ser un poco rápido. And I was like, dude, we'll talk fast. Like, it's fine.
We got you.
We got you.
En español suena más rápido y más bonito. How do we do this?
But it was beautiful. Like, I had a mentor of a long time, Liana, read that bio in Spanish. And my parents understood what that moment meant, because it was for them too. It was for mi tío Domingo, for, Don Chuy and Hilda that were in the audience. And that was everything to me, because so many times, even in, I think about my high school graduation, that's in English. Like, so many of these milestones that we experience as adults, especially living in both worlds, they're in English. So then you lose some of the people that are with you celebrating and like, have sort of been with you every step of the way. And then some of them are in Spanish, but then there's always, you win some, you lose some, right? And that moment for me was everything, because it was really for my parents too. And we joke around now, right? But they were, ya después cuando empezamos a escuchar la canción que empezó, like, everybody's looking around, because people are choosing top 40 songs. It was really beautiful. But and then afterwards, we went to
and we kept it going, and we sang, and the mariachi shows up, and then we celebrated just how we know how to celebrate.
And we did, it was beautiful. But huge shout out to Gali too, because she was one of the other Latinas in the cohort that were celebrated.
Fearless chingona.
Exactly. And I have a lot of love and respect for her, because I remember, her and I knew of each other, but we weren't super tight. And I remember calling her and congratulating her and be like, mujer, like, I want to celebrate. This is what I'm thinking. Like, if you want to like do something together. And she was like, claro que sí. Like, nos echamos una fiesta, pero bien buena. En Zócalo.
Lo vamos a hacer como se debe.
Exactly. And that was beautiful, because it's, as it should be, right? It should be Latinas coming together and being like, when one or two wins, we all win. And that was the turnout, right? Like, you were there, so many people were there, and I was like, man, to be loved by this community is everything. Yeah. This is what it was all about.
Yeah. And it's a reflection too of, this is what community and familia, because the people that need to be there will be there. Yeah. Right. And it's so hard to sometimes appreciate it. I'm going to go back to something you said. And this is I want to speak to the youth, right? Going through this, because we talk about, being the first in a lot of spaces. And I relate so much, because in my leadership journey, and even today, there's not that many senior leaders that look like us. There's not that many senior leaders that are still defying. And I'm actually going through an experience right now in corporate myself, where I'm being put in places and in tables that is the first, and I'm at a different level in my career that I don't get to be quiet anymore.
Yeah.
I don't get to be silent. So that silence, that me, that holding back and code switching is gone.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a place where I can have the authority and be like, I'm earning my title because I earned it. And I'm speaking because I can speak, right?
Yeah.
And it turns so much harder because you're in a different way of earning and claiming that space that really this world is not ready for.
Absolutely.
And I always say this because for our youth, you have to start claiming that space early in your career. And you have to start showing up or honoring that, because sometimes we still think that I want to be careful with what I'm saying because I don't want to hurt feelings, or my peers might not get it.
Yeah.
And I came out of my shell, I would say, even over the last 3 years, and owning my identity. I show up with all the colors in the world. I am always very vocal, and sometimes I'm shaking rooms in ways that they don't want me to shake them, but I own it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's also heavy because now it's bearing a responsibility of risking everything you built out, right? So I'm going on 20 years in the corporate world, and now I look back and it's so empowering to be able to step into that place and say, let me tell you who I am. Let me show you what I'm about.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, then that means that I'm not in the right place here. And taking pride on that, because our youth especially are going through the most difficult times right now, that in a way, when we look at everything happening in our society, the political environment, the wars, social media, the pressure is real.
Mental health, absolutely.
We talk about ourselves. We talk about the struggles we had. I mean, that was, in a way, another whole story.
Yeah.
But the acceleration that our youth are living through today, we have to honor that. And for those of us that are on this side of like almost, we're paving the way, we're honoring, we're celebrating. How do we look back now and tell them we got you?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in that? Because I know you do a lot of that work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's huge. I know you can relate to this because I empathize with so much of what you said, because girl, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. But there are some gatekeepers.
Yeah.
In the city of Milwaukee, right? Like, all due respect, they paid their dues when they were very much oftentimes the first one. It was impossible to be where they are today. And I think that's what drives people like you and I, right? To be like, yeah, I don't really like that, right? Like, we're going to do things a little different over here in the way we pass it forward. But perfect example, I have this young lady who just actually moved from Chicago to Madison for an opportunity within corporate America. And she's, 22. She's graduated university, and she's the first one. She's the oldest in her family, Colombiana. And she's just like, we had a meet and greet. We had coffee chat, very polite, very like soft-spoken. And I'm like, tell me a little bit about your role. And she's telling me, she's describing it. And I'm like, okay, let's talk feedback, right?
Yeah.
It's the little things, to your point, like. And it's so funny because now in hindsight, I think about like, how was I showing up? But it's like the way we make ourselves smaller. Yeah. The way we describe something that we do, like, oh, that's no big deal, because that's just part of what I do. It's just my job description, right? It's like, nah, girl, you are a whole corporate baddie. Like, you are in product innovation. You are leading data analytics at the age of 22. You are experiencing these like, cross like multi collaborative opportunities with different department heads. Like, let's talk about the way you present. Let's run it back, right? And let's own space this time, because I know you're lying. I know you did not move here from Chicago to Madison for this job, right? And you earned it. Yeah. You earned this place, and now you're killing it. But like, let's connect you with people that I trust within the organization that are doing some really cool things, that are part of like the BRG world that I'm a part of, because you're going to get different perspectives from so many different people. But let's start with building your network. Yeah. Right. So I get her connected to a bunch of different folks. She and I am like, encourage her to have like, let's have a standing meeting at least once a month where we can check in. And she would come back, Maria, I met with X, Y, and Z. Oh my God, they were incredible. They told me I should reach out to so-and-so. And next thing you know, her network is multiplied. And by the time that we just actually had a check-in earlier this week, she not only articulated how, like, what she did for her first rotation, right? Because she's a part of this rotational program that has her in 3 different areas. But she presented that work to her director. She mustered up the courage to ask the director for time on their calendar to present the work that she had done over the course of the last 6 months. And then one of the connections led to advocating for a new position that didn't even exist before she advocated for herself. And now she's, doing that rotational program. And I am so incredibly proud of her. But it's just that. It's like, think back at how long it took you and I to figure out the rules, to figure out who's who, to figure out who we have to talk to, and how to get to where we are. It took so long because we had to, again, back to throwing the pasta against the wall. We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We were the first ones. Like, we didn't know, like, who we could trust, who had our best interest in mind, or if maybe we asked, like, then that we come across as incompetent or we don't know what we're doing. And, you always try to, like, show up professionally and show up like you are everything, and you are not going to put that wall down because you worked too hard to get there.
Yeah.
When in reality, I'm like, I wish that more of us would just like girl, it took me way too long, like over a decade to figure out the rules. Let me put you on right now. Yeah. Step number 1, let's get you connected right away. And step number 2, let's practice and sort of practice this elevator speech, because you are so badass, and everything that you express has to have the same audacity that so many of our white counterparts have in corporate America, because baby, you can do it too. You are doing it already. You can run circles. Yeah. And it's the way that we present. And it honestly, sometimes all that we need is someone to just breathe a little bit of life into us, just a little bit of confidence to remind us, like,
oh my God,
you are a corporate baddie too, baby. And she's just like, she's reinvigorated. She's so excited. And the way she carries herself now versus 6 months ago is totally different. Yeah. So that's it. It's just like, man, let's put as many people onto the game as possible, because I really don't believe everybody, just because I had to crawl doesn't mean you have to crawl. Like, if ideally nobody should crawl.
Choice,
exactly.
Right? And so first of all, if you guys need some encouragement, una patadita, like come to me and Mari, because we're experts at that. Like, let me shake you up a little bit, baby, right?
Yeah.
You just remind me of a young mentee that I had a couple years ago, and it's a very similar story. Yeah. And I literally told her, okay, hon, I know your family and I know where you come from. So if we were on the south side and we were in a bar or whatever, how would you tell me that again? Like, tell it to me with that energy. And she was like, well, I can't do that here. I was like, no, you can. Yeah. It's just you and me. We're in a safe space. And to your point, what I realized is the synergy of the confidence shrinking of like, am I doing it right? Am I saying it correctly?
Right.
And reframing that mindset of like, if you can be a badass in the ghetto and speak your mind, because if somebody comes up to you or messes with your family, you're going to stand up in your power.
Absolutely.
And that beast in you is going to come out.
Yep.
Let that show up in the corporate world, because it's going to be, as long as obviously you have to mold it and do it in a positive manner, but use that to your advantage, because oftentimes you cuddle so much and you have this mentality, because it's innate to our culture too, of just show up, do your work,
be grateful for the opportunities you're given.
Don't do too much. No se rezongona, right? That would be my thing. ¿Por qué para todo rezongas? I was like, because I have to.
Yeah.
But showing, right? I love that you're leading with that message, because showing our younger community, you don't have to wait to stand on your power. You can do it respectfully and claim the space that you have earned.
Yeah.
I have this conversation with my daughter, Emily, because she's 23, recent college grad. She's working for a nonprofit. And I've always told her the best way to get into adulting and growing is nonprofit. Yeah. Like, praise yourself.
That and the service industry.
And the service, and like, the lessons in that. And she's young and very early into her career. But I see the passion illuminating, and the, she works with youth, and she's embedded in the community, and she's learning her way.
That's amazing.
And I look at her and I'm like, man, how many people could have an amazing awakening if we would have just like start somewhere like that, because that elevates you in manners and ways. And it challenges you too to get out of the comfort zone a lot faster than sometimes, going into this path. So that's amazing. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you recently, right? There's a lot of accomplishments. There's a Mari that we see, almighty, powerful, beautiful, reina queen, always thriving, looking fabulous. But what's behind all that?
Yeah.
What's behind the Mari Chingona that we see today? We take so much pride.
Yeah.
Take us to that right now. Where is this journey taking you? What are some of those lessons in this pausing and reflecting that you're working in to get you to the future version of you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's honestly, it's a lot of pausing right now and sitting still and just being like more familiar with the unfamiliar. And what I mean by that is that I am so used to such a busy, hectic, crazy calendar because I've been on survival mode for so long. Right. And people like you and I have the tendency of like going on to the next thing and the next thing and then like climbing further, faster.
Yeah.
And, we check so many things off the list. And very rarely do we have opportunities to just like, let's celebrate.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate tonight. Like I see so many cool trends and I love Gen Z for this where they have a cake and, we get together with all of our friends and we put a little candle for whatever it is that you're very proud of that you've accomplished the last 3 months. And it could be small, it could be big, whatever you feel like you've overcome and you've accomplished, that's what we're celebrating. And in the end, you have this cake with like multiple different candles of like this collective sort of sense of celebration. And I love that. And I wish like us like would have more of that sort of drawing and calling to do that.
Yeah.
So in this season of life, honestly, like I am super excited. I actually just found a first generation Latina therapist that I'm really excited to meet with in person next week. It's just like slowing down and going back to the basics. A Latina, therapist, a Latina personal trainer, trying to get back into the gym, into the routine. When people ask me like, what's next? What are you excited about? What are you doing? I can list off all the things that I want to accomplish professionally, but now it's sort of becoming this like narrative shift where I'm like giving myself permission to just think outside and well beyond that. Like that's cool and that's exciting. And what I've learned is like, as exciting as my job and my professional aspirations are, like there are means to an end right now. And right now I love traveling. I love all the things that bring me peace.
I live through your traveling, Mari. I every time I see, I'm like, where's this girl at now?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I love it.
Girl, I'm PTO poor. Okay. I be doing the most, but it brings so much joy. And every time I feel like I'm coming back into these spaces, like feeling recalibrated, feeling refreshed, feeling like I can go back into the ring, and give them sort of like the bigger, better version of who I know myself to be. And every time more and more sort of unapologetic and embracing like the full dynamic persona of like this individual that I've been all along. I've just been sort of like afraid to share all at once, And sort of like for me, the things that I think people oftentimes are surprised by is like, I'm figuring it out too.
Yeah.
Right? Like as much as we feel like we've accomplished so much and we're so together and we're so polished, we're not. Like también somos desmadrosas. We also struggle with our journey with whether it be like our mental health, like our physical health, our spiritual health. I think about really just all that it takes to keep going. Yeah. Keep going in today's climate, in today's like, political climate and what's happening in our communities. Like I am just so grateful for every day that I get to wake up and so grateful for the people that I get to call my best friends, my chosen family, my blood family. But one of my best friends from high school just got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
And she's a fighter. She's amazing and I love her to death. But it really just shook my world in a way that I didn't know was even possible. Because here is someone that is just one of the kindest, hardest working Latinas I've ever met in my entire life. And there's no choice but slowing down and taking care of our health first at this point, right? And so in spending time with her and joking around, I mean, right now we're joking around. She's like, girl, your job is to go out and do things for the plot. Because you have to collect all the chisme and bring it back here so you can keep me entertained, because I'm at the hospital, right, for a week at a time.
Yeah.
And it's allowing me to be present now in a way where just you're more intentional about who you're spending time with.
Yeah.
Right. And you're more intentional about the way you're showing up and like the way that you're loving on people, making them feel, because honest to God, we don't know what we're going through. Like behind the scenes, just because you see us, like being fighter in those boardrooms or in those corporate spaces that otherwise we're the only ones in that look like us, that takes a lot out of us. And in order for us to keep going and being that fighter and like giving it our all and like bringing as many people along with us on that journey, we got to take care of ourselves too. Yeah. And honestly, being kind goes such a long way because you really never know what someone is like navigating behind closed doors.
Yeah, I love that. I think I recently posted something on social media that says, I'm big on like kudos and yes to all of it. And I'm big and always like, hey, take care of yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup. And I saw a caption that said, most people tell me you can't pour from an empty cup. I'm in my season that I don't even know where a freaking cup is.
Girl,
that's me right now. Like, and it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Holding space for that. And I love that you remind us of that because I get the question all the time.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You're so accomplished and you have all these titles and you have like a beautiful family. And underneath all that, like I'm one too that I don't need the world to know my struggles, and you will never hear me like complaining or whining. Literally, I share my roof is literally collapsing right now in my house.
Yeah.
And my old version would be all panicked and freaked out and be like, oh my God. And now I'm in this season of like, you know what? Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And we're just going to get through this. And we're going to make the best of this experience. And yeah, it sucks and whatnot. But you know what? We got bigger problems to worry in our world. We have to think about other things that really matter and holding space for those moments of gratefulness that you mentioned. Because you don't know, life is not promised. Yeah. And at the same time, there's other real life struggles that really need the space and time to hold on to, right? And I'll probably talk to one of my 3 therapists and be like, hey, oh my God, my roof is collapsing, and use that space for that. But I can't be that. I can, but I don't want to be in that mindset of collapsing into that negativity and feeding the world with everything happening. You have to find the space for that. So I appreciate that you bring that because it's so important that we realize that behind this almighty, powerful chingona, right, it's still Maddie, human, figuring shit out. And that it's okay.
Absolutely. No, that's huge. And, you know, I was talking to my sister who's actually my baby sister is living in Paris right now. She's learning French and pursuing her, you know, language degree, and now is looking into business schools. I'm so proud of her. But she was telling me that one of her classmates, her family is in Iran, and right now there's no Wi-Fi, so it's impossible for her to get even in contact with her family with what's happening, and it just puts things into perspective. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, like whether it's a roof or you know, like I have to remind myself, like I miss a train. Right? Like I'm not getting home tonight. It's going to be an inconvenience and going tomorrow morning, for example. I'm like, Mari, it's such a first world problem. Like you're fine. Take a deep breath. Everything will be fine.
Come stay at my house.
You know, exactly. Right?
My roof won't collapse. I promise you. We'll do slumber party.
Exactly. No, it'll be vibes always, guaranteed. But no, it's just this like constant reminder of like, everything is going to be okay. Like tomorrow will come, the sun will rise and we'll start over. We'll try again. And that part has given me so much peace in knowing that like there are so many people around me that are also going through it. And like sometimes, girl, I want to turn this brain off and I just want to kick it. Like I just want to enjoy your presence and like I just want to be like a real human next to you. And I don't want to worry about being so polished and like only about giving you a certain part of me. Right. Yeah. And just existing and like appreciating each other. Yeah. For who we are and where we are in life, you know?
I love it. I love it. Well, I know we're coming at the end of our time here, but I cannot leave with the $1 million question that I'm sure you get all the time. And I leave through some of your posts that you go, like sometimes you'll be in an Uber and you're trying to get coach and these older guys, you know, giving you advice of like, how is someone beautiful like you single? Yeah. If you're still single. But what is that side of you, Mari? Because I'm sure we have a lot of people out there that they're like, ooh, is she single? Is she married? Is she taken? Like, tell us that part about you.
Yeah, you know, it's really funny. In Milwaukee, when I was really experiencing a life after divorce, I was experiencing being single again for a very long, you know, for the first time in a very long time. It was really just about self-discovery and like self-love and dating myself. And that was beautiful. I learned so much about who I was, where I was, and what I was like really excited about, looking forward to. And then I always separated church from state, especially in Milwaukee. It's Milwaukee, baby, right?
Milwaukee,
like, we love Milwaukee. We love her, but it's also complicated.
Let's be friends.
We absolutely, because I think oftentimes what I would think is like, I really want to be taken seriously for what I have to bring to the table and the ways that I want to pour into my community. And I don't want that to be taken away or detracted from who I'm dating or how I'm showing up or what I'm doing on the weekends. Like, and so I'd be very intentional with like, who who got to see that side of me?
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, I'm not going to date in Milwaukee because I want you to know me for the work that I do and how I show up in community, not who I'm dating. All I had to say, right? Like Chicago now being home has been incredible. You know, just I keep that private very much close to chest because it's hard, right?
Yeah,
to like figure out what that balance looks like of I'm like el día de mañana when you see me posting that I'm with somebody on Instagram or on social media is because baby that's future husband right there. Yeah, exactly.
Gotta earn that place, baby. Like
exactly.
It's not just given. I love that.
Yeah.
I love because I think oftentimes, again, going back to those, you know, pressures, I'm sure you get all this time from your family sometimes of like, ¿cuándo te vas a casar?
Yeah.
And what about the kids? And what this? And it's like living in the space of owning your own journey.
Yeah.
You know, like going at the beat of your own drums. That's what I wanted to say earlier. It's so powerful because you don't have to, like you owe nothing to no one.
Yeah.
It's the Maddie journey and I will date whoever the heck I want or not.
Yeah.
It's my life.
Absolutely. So I always say like, you know, like when I'm going on to a new country, I'm going on a new trip, I'll always say like, you know, here I go, collecting another fridge magnet for my parents instead of giving them grandbabies, you know, because it's just the season of life that I'm in, one which I get to travel and I enjoy solo travel out of the country so much. I get to meet new people and experience new cultures and food. And I'm all about, you know, doing things that I've never done, zip lining, hiking, whatever it is, I'm open to it. And that brings me a lot of joy. And so I'm just like really just enjoying that season of life, enjoying the women, the sisterhood, the platonic friendships. I believe that, you know, women and sort of like my girlfriends are sort of my soulmates too.
Yeah.
But we'll see what God has in store for me, girl.
Yeah.
I know we have a couple of, you know, it's always fun to date, right? Like definitely some candidates out there, but, really just hyper focused on me right now.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you're doing that. I mean, I joke around this all the time because, you know, my husband and I, we're going to be celebrating 25 years
Congratulations.
together. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it should be a celebration or like something about it. And then we joke about it because it's like, we think about the choices we make in life and everything's a choice. Yeah. Whether you're choosing you or you're choosing family or you're choosing something else, whatever it is,
absolutely,
it's a choice and you got to carry through with it and everything that entails.
100%. There's consequences to every choice, good, bad, or ugly, or anything in between.
Yeah. And it's all about what you make them. So I love that you're making this a choice for you to live the way you want to live in your own terms. And I so appreciate you sharing your journey. I know we could spend all night here talking because there's so much to learn about Maddie, but I wanted to bring the essence of who you are, your beginnings, who you are, this badass en el corporativo y que la gente conozca un poquito de este lado tuyo. And well, a lot of the other stuff obviously, you know, shows up by itself in the community and the work that you do. Yeah. So I know this won't be the last time I'm going to have you here. And I know next time we're going to be talking about other amazing, powerful things. But as we're thinking about this, like any parting words that you want to leave with our audience? No, just when the number one question I get asked, especially with talking to younger folks, is I'm really uncomfortable with networking. I don't know where to start. Or I know that I need to network. I know that I need to put myself out there, but like I'm really shy. I don't know that I have that in me. And I just really want to remind everyone that like networking sounds intimidating, but it really isn't. Because we all are surrounded by people that we grew up with, that we are working with and working with anywhere. Like I used to work at the Rainforest Cafe as a hostess, right? And like the people that I used to work with back then, that I went to high school with, that like, you know, the lady down the street that sells tamales that we go to on the weekends, like everybody is a part of your network. Your network is not this big, scary concept of only professionals. It's everyone that makes you who you are and everyone that you talk to on a daily basis. And if you don't know the answer, like more oftentimes than not, if you ask someone, right, especially in a beautiful city like Milwaukee, you are more than likely to like, you know, if I reach out to you, you may not know who to talk to, but hey, Mari, guess what? Like I can connect you, make a call. We're going to call, you know, Julanita, and Julanita's going to call someone else. And now you're connected. And so just really want to emphasize and drive home the power of like leaning into who you currently are surrounding yourself with. And if you feel like you're trying to meet new people and like you don't know where to start, there are some incredible events that happen all throughout Milwaukee all the time. Take a leap of faith, right? And just like whether it's social acts or, you know, there's a
a wonderful trivia night happening at Zócalo or a salsa class that's happening, just put yourself out there. Go attend those events, right? And start with who you know, because you'd be surprised who is in your network already without even trying. But you can do it. And it really is about like just being your authentic self and leading into the people that are already in your lives. So I just want to dismantle as much as possible that like networking is this big, scary concept, or that it's only for people that have like access to legacy or access to trust funds. Yeah. Because your network is tu comunidad. Ya la tienes.
Yeah, I love that. Let's demystify what networking is. And,
absolutely.
And let's be honest, nos encanta el desmadre.
Absolutely.
Somos bien conectados.
Exactly.
So this whole networking truly is thinking about your trusted circle.
Exactly.
I know in a podcast that you were recently, you talked about the board of directors, right? And your board of directors could be even like the people,
anyone.
Your teacher that believes in you.
Exactly.
The person that sees something in you that you don't even see in yourself.
Absolutely.
Someone at your work that says, hey, I think you'd be great at that. Listen to them, because we are the best at sabotaging ourselves.
Yep.
And there's always usually someone else seeing the power within us than we see in ourselves.
Yeah.
So I love that message. Well, Mari, muchas gracias de corazón.
Gracias a ti, doctora Xochitl.
It's un placer ser no solo tu amiga, but then also learning and knowing more about your journey, all the amazing things, showing up with the white outfit and the flag. Like, keep on doing that. Keep being yourself and keep living life the way you want to live and know that you do have a community here behind you, that you've earned that respect and that credibility and that honoring, that you keep living through that. And I hope that of course we'll have you here again to talk about the amazing things that you're doing. But thank you.
Shout out to you, porque you are the truest definition of cuando dice uno que tu pueblo te respalda. Like, that is what you're doing. And every time you provide a platform for all of your listeners and the audience to get to know all of these incredible leaders in Milwaukee that maybe people don't have a chance to know, not intimately, or maybe not the sight of them. So muchísimas gracias a ti,
Ay, gracias,
thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I love that our conversation will continue. Thank you so much. So where can people find more about you? I know you're private, but you do a lot of things in our community. Where can people learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, I'm working on not being too much of a humble queen, right? I struggle with like boasting on LinkedIn. So you probably won't find me there talking about all the things that I'm doing as much as it is on Instagram. So at Con la Mari, find me and let's be friends.
Love it. Con la Mari, she's always living life. Thank you so much. Gracias, amiga. Un placer haberte tenido. Y pues gracias a mi comunidad, así es de que ya saben, siempre les traemos gente maravillosa que no tan solo están haciendo cosas en nuestra comunidad, pero que son ejemplos de trascendencia, que vienen de nuestras raíces, que luchan, que siguen adelante y que a pesar de todo no se rajan.
Eso mero.
Así que con eso nos vamos a quedar. Muchas gracias, mi hermosa. Y nos vemos aquí. No se olviden sintonizarnos en todas las plataformas, en YouTube, y seguirnos para más episodios. Nos vemos.
Hasta luego.